11 years ago, I proposed to my then became fiance the weekend after Valentine's Day. Now, that morning, I kind of lucked out with it because that morning I met up with a bunch of people who went to breakfast after church. It was a church I was attending. I was in Texas at the time. And so when I got there, I met up with them early because I needed them to go ahead and mic me, get that all hooked up. I had a friend who worked with music videos, so he had equipment and access to it. And then there was another young woman that was a friend of both of us, and she was going to take still pictures. So what I did was I figured out a place that had um, a little waterfall and kind of set the scene, and I had the people who helped me there so we could get it all ready to go, them in position and just signals and things like that. And a lot of women that get engaged or married don't really understand the the amount of hoops that I have to jump through to even get to that position, to even get to being engaged and wedding planning and all that. And a lot of them probably, frankly, probably don't even appreciate it. But you know, everything from picking out the ring and shopping for that, because the ring situation for me was like 15 years in the making. I could not wait to finally have my bride that I can get a ring for and propose and just kind of do the whole thing. And that's why I had it filmed and everything and all of that. But so what I did was I went that morning and I got all mic'd up and hooked up, and then I drove back to pick her up, which she wasn't feeling that good, I guess, and bringing her back to the location to do the proposal. So we did that, and it's still in the top five of the most influential mountaintop experiences of my life because from my background, but also as a man, I felt like that was a stepping stone in manhood, and it was one of the proudest moments of my entire life. And I thought that was pretty cool, and had it filmed and everything. What was neat too is that at the time I was working with copiers, so we were out one day for work, and I saw that they had these wide format printers, and I printed a couple pictures of me and her smiling, and it was great because you could put it on the wall. I gave one to her parents, and then we had one. And again, this was a long time ago, but I thought that was pretty cool, and it was pretty epic. And anyways, it didn't. I got all the way to about 3 months before the wedding, and different things came up, and it didn't work out in the end, which was really sad. And after about a decade of despair over it, I just kind of snapped out of it. I snapped out and thought, what am I doing? Like, how? It's one of those things where it was so traumatic of an event that it took really years to kind of, even deal with some of it. I started stuttering. I went from extreme extrovert to pretty heavy introvert. Um, I had extreme anxiety, social anxiety like I've never had before. It was just a it was destiny altering. When you have a destiny altering event that takes place and derails you, like you don't even know where to begin. So, anyways, I thought this would be very interesting to kind of go back and ask, okay, so it didn't work out. Would I recommend it again? Let me say this. I don't think that if I could go back, knowing what I know, in a perfect world, great. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that I proposed. And the reason I say that is I've had to really dig deep for saying things that, to find gratitude. And because there's so much we have, but also you kind of forget about it. And I had a friend that died in a car wreck about 2 years ago now. And I thought to myself, I don't think he even got to propose ever. So I'm already blessed. I already got to experience what it's like to cross over in that way. And, I'm grateful for it. Now, if I could go back, would I do it again? No. I wish I could erase it, because part of the thing with, especially nowadays, we're in my opinion, a crisis, especially if you're a Christian. We are in a marriage crisis situation that, for some reason, I don't know why the pastors haven't addressed it in my almost 40 years of life. It's pretty disappointing with the marriage laws. But when I was proposing, I didn't know what I was doing. And that really just kind of sets the tone with my own background and how that, even comes about, and my views of marriage and how that has changed, because really it's almost the opposite of what I've spent my entire life believing. And so that's really what I want to get into next is, how do I view marriage? For me, I look at the level of the kind of the suffering from what happened. And when I got to the 10-year mark, and I think this is what really helped kind of push me out and kind of shake me out of this despair, was when I got to the 10-year mark, which had been a 10-year wedding anniversary. It's like, boy, it got real fast, The things that could happen in 10 years being together is kind of wild. And so that was just kind of a tough year, was the year 10. And then year 11, I started really going through just evaluating the past 20 years in all these areas, because I'm like I got to be a kind of one of those winners of the simp award, because I did a lot of that, because I didn't understand really critical things about what I was getting into and about women. And that goes back, let's go back to, what are my views of marriage? My entire life, I believed that marriage was pretty straightforward. My parents were married all the way until my dad died, and that's another thing for another day. That also really helped me wake up, and for me to see kind of that my destiny being completely gone when my dad died. It was like another shoe to drop for me, and dealing with that, realizing him and my mother won't even get to see me get married, and so that's been hard. But for me, marriage was something that was just a thing that you did. And it was also the crossing between having sex and not, because we were waiting for that. And I believe sex is for marriage. So you have that. So here we are, assuming that, the right thing to do is get married. And for me, growing up, all my friends' parents were married. Divorce was incredibly rare. I don't even remember hanging out with anybody that their parents were divorced. There was a girl that liked me in high school at the very beginning of the whole dating thing, and her parents were divorced. And I remember seeing her, and her talking about going to dad's every other weekend. It's just like, no, that's lame. Divorce is lame. All that is lame. But the whole marriage thing today is just not what I expected. So for me, when I think of marriage, I pick somebody, I plan to be with them the rest of life. It goes back to when I was a little boy. I had always wanted to be married. I've never been afraid of women. I've never been, I had some nerves, I guess, when I was in 7th, 8th grade a little bit, but I was always interested in women. There was never a cooties epidemic or any kind of, I don't want to be close to them. No, I have older sisters, and they were tough, so it's not the same thing, but that was something we did. But one of the big things for me, and by the way, the prenup thing, that right there is completely changed, because I remember thinking for so long, until about the last couple years, I'm like, I will not sign a prenup. I will not do that. I won't dishonor God no matter what. I'm going to stay and stand firm. And I look at it now, knowing what I know today, and think, what a dumb thing to think and say. Because especially since my dad died, I started really thinking about these last couple years, thinking about the whole family structure and what's necessary and kind of where we're at with that. And the reality is, between the government and the father, we got a problem. We have a government that is hell bent on destroying the family, and what they want to do is they want to cut the legs out of the man. That way he struggles and then gets transferred that money to the woman, and then they'll just exploit her. That's no problem. And then that way they can get access to the children. And so as a man, now I'm asking questions that I never even know I needed to ask. I started going down the rabbit hole of which women would I want to watch my kids for 6 hours when I'm not around. Like, now we're talking about trust at these basic levels that I'd never even considered. Because, even all the way back from 11 years ago, dating today has changed dramatically. It used to be where you had the dating websites, but you didn't have the whole swiping and, you got rid of them within 2 seconds of seeing them. There wasn't that. You had profiles. It's changed. And I specifically seen the dating world shift heavily in 2018. But I've been following the whole dating and men and women for many years. And I remember back in the early 2000s, because I was a moron, I was watching I remember when The Bachelor first came out and me and my girlfriend were watching it. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not going to be good for the future, because I thought, and rightfully so, what this is going to do is it's going to further put women thinking that this is the type that they're going to go for. This is what you should go after. An older, wealthy, man. And the thing is, it's not about any of that. It's the conditioning. It's this idea and just stroking the ego, and has really divided men and women in ways we still don't fully understand. But it's been pretty detrimental for us as mate selection. So I remember seeing that come about, and then you fast forward and seeing the dress changes, and then you get to 50 Shades of Grey, and now that hit a whole new level, and the whole agenda is just to destroy the whole entire family. And so when I start seeing all that, at first I really kind of struggled, but I just realized when I was proposing, this is not at all what I had planned on. This is not at all what marriage is. By nature, I would marry someone, and yeah, of course I'll be with them for life. Yeah, of course I'll be faithful to them. Yeah, of course I'm going to do that because they're my wife. But it's more complicated than that. And that really takes me to a place after I was kind of starting to come out of the despair. I started seeing these things online with things like red pill content, and when you hear it, it's really insane. It really takes you back, because it's not at all how I grew up. And ever since 2018, but really 2020, my whole entire life, everything I know, a lot of it is just flipped upside down. So it's been a very overwhelming, going on 5 years now with that. But 2020 really was an eye-opener in so many ways. And I don't think people realize how much 2020 is affecting dating and marriage and all that. I mean, just the whole injection thing alone wiped out 80% of my potential candidates. Like if they got it done, it's no chance. We won't even date. We can't. It's a health problem. So that was kind of interesting. That felt like a nail in the coffin as far as marriage goes. It's like, well, who are we going to marry now? But that's a whole nother thing. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Lisa Lost podcast. If you haven't gone through the Hacks series, make sure you do so. First link in the description. You want to focus on the long-term pillars in the back end that make your relationships much easier and long-term. So start there. Otherwise, watch this clip here.